Hello and welcome. My name is Jakub Kapiszewski and you're watching World Talks on TVP World. And we're recording in Katowice, where European Economic Congress is taking place, one of the biggest conferences of its kind in Poland. And Katowice is actually a very special place for the Polish economy because it's one of the mid-sized cities that benefited greatly from the expansion of the business services sector. But now this sector is under threat of AI and automation. And to discuss whether this threat actually has already came to places like Katowice, I am now joined by Janusz Dziurzyński, president of ABSL Poland. Hello, sir. Thank you for taking time to talk to us.
Good to talk to you again.
ABSL is an association of business services leaders, so you're grouping the companies from the business services sector. That's just ABSL, what ABSL stands for, right? So my first question would be, there's a lot of talk about whether AI will actually encroach on areas roles traditionally being performed by humans. And business services sector is being mentioned in this context and one of the possible victims, if I may use this word. So what's your perspective on what's going on in your industry globally? Like, has the AI already arrived?
Yes, thank you for the question. AI has definitely arrived, and as you correctly mentioned, there are lots of speculations, assumptions, and there are many prophets who are trying to
some of them false. Some of them false.
Thankfully, some of them false. But there's lots of discussion and lots of opinions being posted and offered in the space. There is no question that AI, so artificial intelligence, has an impact, profound impact on the sector. Why is this? This is because many of the very basic services that have been concentrated, moved around the world, put together in services center, outsourced, insourced, and provided by business process outsourcing companies, those are repetitive tasks. Many of them were very repetitive, very simple. For example, a very simple and basic data analysis, getting sense from information that is collected.
Sifting through like
scanning,
troves of data.
Scanning text, getting the essence from the text. Everybody uses Copilot and ChatGPT. Those kind of functions, which I would call administrative functions or simple functions, are and should be reconsidered. AI is simply accelerating this process. Okay. So if we wanted to protect this kind of jobs, then we might be partially successful. AI makes this protection much more difficult. Okay. I look at this very positively because it pushes us and stimulates the business service leaders to think about what's next and to think about how do I upscale people to get this simple tasks go without any regret, but make sure that whoever stays thinks higher, and we push the service levels and also the sophistication of the business provision to a completely different level. So yes, this phenomenon is around us. Mm-hmm. It is being demonized by many people, but its impact is profound. There is no discussion.
So I understand that your perspective is, in a way, how to save those jobs. We need to move those people up the ladder. We need to make them perform more complicated tasks. But have we seen an actual impact when it comes to job losses in the sector because of the AI?
Yes, we did.
Globally. Let's just stay with global perspective.
One thing, we make differentiation between global, local, Polish, European. To that extent, the business services sector is global by its nature. Mm-hmm. There is not much differentiation. As Poland, we are intrinsically plugged in the global value chain. Okay. There is no difference between what happens here versus what happens in the United States or what happens in Singapore. Okay. So in that extent, we're taking part in this development and all this phenomenon. The reason why potentially we might see that to a larger extent than the other places is very simple. Poland is a major player on the business services map of the world, not the Europe, the world. This is why these effects are going to be seen in our country very quickly, mm-hmm. if not immediately. But this happens everywhere. So yes, we've seen, and everybody reads news, there are major layoffs globally by big players. Bigger the player, more the jobs they have, bigger layoffs are. And this is driven by two factors, by by continuous cost pressure and an unbelievable push for cash for short-term results, which has been always there, but now it's accelerating to unprecedented level because of uncertainty and many other things, but also because of fast development of artificial intelligence. So yes, it's observed everything. And we hear here and there about hundreds, sometimes about thousands of jobs being laid off. And this is associated to AI. To be very clear and to be very specific, not all of these declarations are entirely true. These layoffs are not necessarily caused by AI. They are caused by continuous cost pressure, as I mentioned,
of course,
chase for cheaper labor, which is not a new phenomenon, but also through a push for transformation. Remember that, and you know this very well, in difficult, uncertain times that we definitely operate in, the push for transformation and necessity to rethink your model, your operating model, is more profound and stronger than ever. This is why we observe a culmination of these effects, and AI is one of them.
Okay, let me just bring some numbers. Business services sector in Poland is responsible for almost 6% of GDP. That's a lot.
Let's say it again, 6% GDP.
Almost, it's 5.7, ladies and gentlemen. And almost 500,000 people is being employed in this sector.
Almost 500,000 people.
Almost 500,000 people. So if AI is coming for those people, cities like Katowice are going to have a problem on their hands, like a serious problem. So let's bring this conversation back to Poland. Yep. I understand that the industry is global. However, I must advocate for the local perspective for a little bit. Do we see an AI impacting the sector in Poland?
You're absolutely right, advocating for local. Still, 70% of all foreign direct investment is international, is foreign. So the answer to this question, again, is a yes. We should be thinking about this.
But when we say this impact, it just means that AI is being introduced in the services sector, or whether we say that people are actually being laid off because of the AI?
No. Neither that, or yes and yes, or no and no.
Okay.
AI is not a new phenomenon. In fact, we started the process of robotics automation and automation many years ago. Now, thanks to artificial intelligence, this process accelerates and takes a different spin. But it's the same process that took place 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So now we just tools and advancement of these of artificial intelligence is at a completely different level. Therefore, the impact is imminent and immediate. It's here. So plus there is a lot of competition. So we see, like internationally, we see a threat or the opportunity of how these AI-driven processes will reshape the workforce. And we know that it's associated to AI. Then the recent stories, especially from Kraków, that were discussed in multiple articles, showing a quite dramatic picture of the impact of how we reduce number of how the companies decide to for significant layoffs because of AI. And at the same time, if we look at the opinions of the experts and of the outlook of how these experts are painting the future, and we as ABSL, Association of Business Service Leaders in this country and beyond, we ask about multiple aspects of business development, our leaders, the leaders of the centers. Nota bene, we have more than 2,000 centers providing this sort of services in Poland. These leaders, in predominant majority, it's 84%, perceive AI as an opportunity, not as a threat. That's interesting. Same number 1 year ago was 78%. The positive attitude grows, which means that maybe it's not such difficult, maybe it's a matter how you deal with that, what's your response, what's your proactive thinking about how this fascinating phenomenon influences and reshapes the way we think about the workforce, the necessity to reskill and upskill our people, to be ready to communicate with artificial intelligence and be in the symbiosis where a human and the machine, a very smart machine, can produce better results for the economy. So we look at this very seriously. The facts, you can look at the facts from two angles. On one hand side, you can read the articles and pose that completely take out of the proportion the actual layoffs. You can also look at the fact that the sector continues to grow and accelerate. Yes, it slows down, the number of market is getting saturated, but we talk about this since 2022. It's nothing new. We knew it. We kind of, actually, we really perceived that this phenomenon will happen faster. The fact that it's not going that fast, it's another good perspective. And the positive thinking about this change is very, very encouraging.
Okay, so you're saying basically AI has arrived. It's
Yes.
already being used by the sector, also in Poland. Leaders are upbeat about it because they see it as a tool for increasing the efficiency.
It's productivity increase, is a push for innovation. It's the possibility to connect the dots using technology that normally would be limited to the human brain. This time you can, I mentioned the symbiosis, we call it generative business services, a new term that we introduced last year. And the idea here is to, as I mentioned, is to think about how it has the symmetric effect between the human that is ready, prepared, trained, conscious about this particular new ways of working, and the machine which is doing what it's supposed to do.
Okay. Does it mean that your sector will need to hire people with totally different skills? Well, I'm not talking about an office worker being or not being able to use AI at work every day, but for example, like AI programmers.
Yes, the necessity.
Because I have this impression that there is a shortage of these kind of people in Poland. Like we don't have many AI-focused programmers.
Again, I will play this back. The shortage of this kind of people and this kind of profiles is present everywhere, right? Obviously, it's also in Poland. Is it a shortage? Yes, it is a shortage, but this is probably not the angle I would like to approach this particular topic from. The angle is the entry level. Because if you look at the structure of employment, you have the top leadership, you have the middle management, and then you have people who are basically the workforce. Typically, it shapes as a pyramid. In the AI era, that shape is going to be more of a diamond, which basically means that simple jobs, simple tasks are going to be to a more and more extent taken over by artificial intelligence or automation, and this is perfectly fine.
Okay.
But therefore, if you have a shape, diamond shape, the entrance is not a broad base, the entrance becomes very narrow. Therefore, the entry barrier for the people graduating from universities or graduating from the secondary schools is much higher than it used to be. This is a phenomenon that we need to take very seriously into consideration because we need to offer reskilling and getting ready for these people to be moving to the middle management, taking advantage of the automation and artificial intelligence, but before you make that jump, you need to enter the company. This is the challenge we have in front of us. When I say we, it's business challenge, because we want to hire people who are ready to operate at that level, and initially they cannot without proper training, as you mentioned, and with the proper skill sets. It's a challenge for academia, because all of a sudden, we are not talking about people knowing how to spell business services and knowing what to do in planning our supply chain, for example, or how to ensure the cybersecurity for the corporation, or how to secure business process continuity. All of a sudden, there is this huge player, great tool that needs to be dealt with.
Janusz Dziurzyński, President of ABSL, Association of Business Service Leaders in Poland. Thank you very much for taking time.
Thank you so much for the conversation.
To talk to us.
Thank you.
And you've been watching World Talks on TVP World. We're recording at Katowice from European Economic Congress. My name is Jakub Kapiszewski, and stay tuned for more of our Katowice coverage.